We weren't supposed to find these places. Ancient cities, sunken plains, secret tunnels under pyramids. We found places no one was ever supposed to uncover. Deep beneath the scorched desert of Chihuahua, Mexico, there's a place that looks more like the inside of Superman's Fortress of Solitude than anything on Earth. It's called the Cave of the Crystals, a hidden chamber hundreds of feet underground, discovered by accident in 2000 when miners were drilling for silver and lead. What they found was beyond science fiction. The cavern is filled with colossal crystals, the largest ever seen. Some of these translucent selenite beams stretch more than 35 feet long and weigh up to 55 tons. Just being in the same room as these things makes you feel like you've shrunk down and stepped into a world designed for giants. For a long time, this underground wonder was completely sealed off from human knowledge. Nature had kept it secret for 500,000 years. But here's the catch: you can't just stroll in there and explore. The cave is brutally hot, with the temperatures soaring above 120 degrees Fahrenheit and humidity levels close to 100%. Without special suits and oxygen systems, people would last only a few minutes before their body gives in. It's a natural oven. That's one of the reasons this place remained hidden for so long. It wasn't just buried, it was protected by lethal conditions. Scientists were stunned, not only because of the scale of the crystals, but because of what might be living inside them. Microbes trapped within the crystal structures have been dormant for tens of thousands of years. Researchers revived some of them in lab conditions, opening the door to wild theories about ancient life lying in wait beneath the Earth's surface. Some even wondered if this is the kind of environment we might find beneath the ice of Europa or Enceladus. What makes it even stranger is how the crystals formed. They grew slowly over at least 500,000 years in a pocket of underground water rich in gypsum. But here's the twist: when the mining company began pumping out the water to dig deeper, they unknowingly stopped the crystal growth. In a way, by discovering the cave, we froze it in time. Today, the chamber is closed off again, and the question remains: if something like this was hiding under the feet of miners, completely unknown, what else is waiting deeper down in places we haven't dug, drilled, or dared to enter yet? Just off the coast of Norman's Cay in the Bahamas, the ocean hides something it was never meant to show. Resting eerily on the seafloor are several full-sized airplanes, scattered among coral and sand like forgotten toys from a time no one talks about. From above, they look like wreckage, but when you get close, it's clear many of these planes didn't crash. They were placed. Some are in too perfect condition, with no signs of explosive impact or violent force. They're aligned almost like a parking lot. For years, divers assumed they were remnants of military training gone wrong. But whispers around the island suggest otherwise, that this wasn't an accident, but a cover-up of something bigger. In the 1980s, Norman's Cay was a heavily guarded hub, completely off-limits to outsiders. It was rumored to be a private landing zone used for transporting illegal substances. Locals were warned not to get too close, and strange patrols roamed the shores at night. After a U.S. raid in the early 1990s, the island was abandoned. What was left behind was bizarre, including these aircraft on the ocean floor. Some of the planes bear no registration, others appear on no flight logs. And here's the kicker: a few have Cold War-era parts not used by commercial airlines. No one can explain how they got there. The wrecks attract divers now, but there are zones even experienced guides avoid. Strange signals interfere with sonar. Compass needles spin. Could these planes have been part of something deeper tied to intelligence operations or experimental aircraft programs? Or were they dumped to erase certain traces of activity in a hurry? Whatever the truth is, it lies silent beneath turquoise water. The ocean keeps secrets better than any vault. And the longer these machines stay submerged, the harder the real story becomes to trace. There's a place in northern New Mexico that even locals speak about in a lowered voice, Dulce. A small town with barely a few thousand people, surrounded by mesas and silence. But beneath that quiet surface, many believe something massive is hidden. Not gold, not oil. Something much harder to explain. It's called the Dulce Base. According to leaked documents and first-hand accounts, it's a multi-level underground facility built deep into Archuleta Mesa. And if the stories are true, it makes Area 51 look like a welcome center. Whistleblowers claim the lower levels of the base aren't controlled by the military, but by a joint operation with non-human entities. There are drawings, blueprints, and recorded interviews from people who say they worked down there, describing elevators that descend miles into the earth, labs filled with biotech experiments, and even entire ecosystems lit by artificial suns. Some reports claim the base was built during the Cold War, designed to study advanced technologies that couldn't be explained through conventional science. And when those technologies started working, the experiments never stopped. Witnesses say they've seen things inside Dulce that shouldn't exist, including strange craft launching vertically from concealed mountain hangars. Of course, no government agency officially acknowledges Dulce Base exists, but satellite imagery has captured unusual ventilation structures on the mesa, and locals report constant low-frequency humming at night, even when no power lines or factories are nearby. Is it all just urban legend? A Cold War ghost story spun out of paranoia? Or is Dulce the key to understanding why so many advanced sightings and strange lights cluster over this one spot in the desert? Theories keep piling up, but no one's ever gotten close enough to confirm. Whatever's hidden down there, it was never meant to be found. At least not yet. Everyone knows the pyramids are massive. What most people don't know is what lies beneath them. For centuries, stories swirled about secret tunnels, hidden rooms, and chambers deep below the sands of Giza. Most were dismissed as myths, but recent technology is proving those stories may have been true all along. Using muon scanning, a technique that tracks cosmic particles passing through stone, scientists discovered something astonishing inside the Great Pyramid, a massive void above the Grand Gallery untouched for thousands of years. That alone was enough to make headlines. But then things got even weirder. Ground-penetrating radar surveys around the plateau revealed anomalies, deep geometric cavities, and shafts that don't match any known map of the site. Some believe these form part of a lost network of underground chambers, far larger than anyone expected. Several of these pathways lead not just under the Great Pyramid, but toward the Sphinx and beyond. Egyptian authorities confirmed the findings, but quickly sealed access to several areas. That only added fuel to the theories. Why block entry if there's nothing to hide? Some researchers believe there are ancient texts buried there, possibly written before the pyramids were even built. Others suspect the tunnels could lead to something older than Egyptian civilization itself. In pop culture, it's been tied to theories about Atlantis, alien contact, and even the Book of Thoth, a mythical text said to hold the secrets of the gods. Whether those stories are myth or fact, one thing is clear: what lies beneath Giza isn't fully mapped, and it's far from ordinary. Most of it is still off limits, but with new scans revealing more each year, the sands may not be able to keep their secrets much longer. In the mountains of southern Peru, near the shores of Lake Titicaca, there's a strange stone carving that has sparked centuries of legends, a perfectly shaped door etched into a sheer rock face. It's called Puerta de Hayu Marca, or the Gate of the Gods. And the truth is, no one can really explain why it exists. The door is massive, about 23 feet tall, but it leads nowhere. There's no temple, no tunnel, no steps, just an incredibly precise rectangular shape carved into solid rock with a smaller inset door at its center. Locals say it's been there since before the Inca, before any known civilization in the area. And that's where things get interesting. According to oral legends passed down by Andean shamans, the gate was a portal, a place where heroes and priests could access another world. It was used in ceremonies with sacred objects, like a golden disc said to have fallen from the sky. One legend tells of a priest who placed the disc into a slot on the smaller door and vanished in a flash of blue light. He never returned. Geologists agree that the formation wasn't natural, it was clearly carved. But why create a door that doesn't open? No burial chamber, no inscriptions, no treasure, just silence and stone. Some visitors claim to feel dizzy near the structure. Others report strange dreams after touching it. And the site is still used today in spiritual rituals. Some theorists point to electromagnetic anomalies in the region. Others suggest it aligns with celestial events. There are even claims it connects to similar gates in Egypt and India, forming a global grid. Whether it's a lost temple, an ancient monument, or something far older, Puerta de Hayu Marca remains one of the most mysterious places ever uncovered, a doorway no one's ever walked through. At over 16,000 feet in the Indian Himalayas, there's a remote glacial lake that hides a grim secret. For most of the year, Rupkund is frozen solid, but every summer, as the ice melts, the surface reveals something eerie: hundreds of human skeletons lying just beneath the waterline, perfectly preserved in the cold. When the lake was first discovered by a British forest ranger in the 1940s, the sheer number of bones sparked panic. Was it the site of a forgotten battle? A mass sacrifice? Even today, estimates suggest over 800 people lie in and around the lake. But the weird part? They all died in the same way: blunt force trauma to the skull. At first, theories ranged from landslides to ritual punishment, but a 2004 expedition revealed something stranger. The injuries were too uniform, too localized. The scientists concluded that the people were likely killed by hailstones, massive baseball-sized ones, the kind of freak storm that can sweep through the mountains and leave no chance of escape. Later genetic testing added more layers to the mystery. Some of the skeletons date back to the 9th century, while others are only 200 years old. They're not from the same population either. Some are genetically closer to modern Greeks. What were people from different eras and regions doing at the same remote lake centuries apart? Rupkund is now a restricted area. Tourists are kept at a distance. And while scientists still try to figure out the exact timeline, the locals believe it's cursed. They say the souls of those who perished there never left. It's one of the few places on Earth where history, science, and legend collide, and no one walks away with a full explanation. Near the town of Antequera in southern Spain, there's a mountain that looks like it's sleeping literally. Known as La Peña de los Enamorados, this colossal rock formation looks exactly like the face of a giant lying on its back, eyes closed, lips relaxed, chin to the sky. It's so perfect, so human, that people often assume it's been carved. But it hasn't. Nature made this. The profile is massive, over 2,000 feet wide and eerily precise. From the air, it's impossible to miss. For centuries, locals have told stories about this mountain. The most famous one is a tragic romance, a Christian knight and a Moorish princess who leapt from the peak to escape being torn apart by their families. The mountain is said to have captured the knight's final moment. But the face itself raises bigger questions. Geologists confirm it's natural erosion, but others point to how unnaturally symmetrical it is. The kind of symmetry rarely found in random geology. Some believe the mountain was worshipped in prehistoric times. There are ancient dolmens, megalithic tombs at its base, all aligned perfectly with the stone face. Then there are the theories. Some suggest it was a natural landmark chosen by early sky watchers, maybe even used in forgotten rituals. Others believe this isn't the only sleeping giant on Earth, and that these formations, scattered across continents, might have once meant something. Not just to mark territory, but to send a message from the ground to the sky. This one stares up at the stars in silence, day and night. And even now, no one can explain why it looks the way it does. There's a mountain deep in the southern Urals that you can't climb, can't visit, and can't even photograph up close. It's called Mount Yamantau, and it's one of the most secretive places in Russia. For years, it was just a name on a map. But satellite images and leaked intel have made one thing clear: something massive is hidden beneath it. During the Cold War, construction began on a sprawling underground facility within the mountain. Officially, Russia said it was a food storage center. Then they changed the story, said it was a mine, then a nuclear bunker. The truth is, no one outside the Kremlin seems to know for sure. But the size of the infrastructure is staggering. Satellite imagery has revealed rail lines disappearing into the mountain, ventilation shafts as wide as buildings, and endless truck activity. It's been nicknamed Russia's Area 51, and like that base, it's wrapped in layers of security and silence. Western analysts believe the site could house command bunkers, weapons labs, or even entire cities meant to survive a full-scale nuclear event. Locals are warned to stay away. Journalists have been turned back at checkpoints. No one can say what's happening under the rock, only that whatever it is, it's still active. Some wild theories suggest it's a repository for ancient relics, or even recovered technology. Others point to reports of underground drilling that began long before the official construction. Some believe the Soviets stumbled onto something older, buried deep below the Ural crust, and built the base to contain it. Whether it's a Cold War relic or something even stranger, Mount Yamantau remains a modern enigma. It's a mountain-sized locked door, and no one's holding the key. It started with a broken wall. In 1963, a man in the town of Derinkuyu knocked through a section of his basement, and behind it wasn't more stone. It was a tunnel. And that tunnel led to an entire hidden city that no one alive even knew existed. Derinkuyu Underground City runs nearly 200 feet deep and could once shelter 20,000 people. It has homes, stables, schools, wells, ventilation shafts, even churches and wine cellars. All of it carved directly into volcanic rock. No machinery, just ancient tools and unbelievable determination. What's more chilling is how sophisticated the whole thing is. Massive stone doors could seal off each level from invaders. Air shafts were designed to circulate oxygen across dozens of floors. There are escape routes and defense traps. Whoever built it wasn't just hiding, they were preparing for something. Historians estimate the city was built at least 2,800 years ago, maybe earlier. But no one agrees on who did it. The Phrygians? The Hittites? Something even older? And what were they hiding from that forced them to live underground for months at a time? Derinkuyu wasn't alone. It connects to other underground cities by long tunnels forming a sprawling network under Cappadocia. Some believe these networks weren't just defensive. They may have been designed to protect people from a threat on the surface, a natural disaster, or something more unusual. The city remained secret for centuries, buried directly beneath people's homes. It raises one huge question: if something this massive went unnoticed until recently, what else is still waiting to be uncovered, just under our feet? Beneath 2 miles of Antarctic ice, there's a body of water that hasn't seen sunlight since the age of saber-toothed cats. Lake Vostok is one of the largest subglacial lakes on Earth, but until recently, no one had ever touched it. And when they did, things got strange. The lake was sealed off by a thick sheet of ice for more than 20 million years, completely isolated. No light, no air, no contact with the outside world. Yet in 2012, a Russian team managed to drill down into it using sterilized equipment to prevent contamination. What they pulled up raised eyebrows, microscopic organisms unlike anything seen before. These microbes didn't match anything in known databases. Some researchers said they were ancient life forms, perfectly adapted to the extreme pressure and darkness. Others weren't so sure. Conspiracy theories exploded online. A few scientists working near the site suddenly left the project. One report, never confirmed, claimed the team had encountered a large, warm object beneath the ice that moved. Since then, data from Lake Vostok has been tightly controlled. Samples were never fully published. Parts of the project went dark. And the research base nearby? It's still active, but heavily restricted. Some believe what's under the ice could help unlock alien biology life forms that survive in conditions similar to moons like Europa or Enceladus. Others think this secrecy has nothing to do with science and more to do with what they accidentally unleashed. Whatever the truth, Lake Vostok is like a vault that was never meant to be opened. But now that it has, we might never get the full story. For thousands of years, Ubar was just a legend, the so-called Atlantis of the sands. Arab poets and explorers wrote about a wealthy desert city that vanished beneath the dunes after angering the gods. Most thought it was pure mythology, until NASA satellites picked up something strange in the Rub al-Khali, the world's largest sand desert. Buried beneath layers of sand were ancient road networks, all pointing toward a central point. When an excavation team followed the signal in the early 1990s, they found the ruins of an ancient outpost, a massive stone fortress, with collapsed towers and an 8-story well. The remains of what may have once been Ubar. This wasn't just a trading post. It was a city that controlled the frankincense trade, one of the ancient world's most valuable commodities. The wealth that flowed through Ubar was immense, but then it disappeared without a trace. Geologists think the city sat on top of a limestone cavern that eventually collapsed, swallowing it. But others believe it was buried intentionally. The ruins show signs of sudden abandonment, and there are ancient warnings carved into stone warnings about judgment, fire, and betrayal. To this day, only part of Ubar has been unearthed. The surrounding dunes may still hide more of the city, completely untouched. But the site is remote and harsh, and efforts to dig deeper always seem to stall. Some say it's cursed. Others think what's under the sand is more than just buildings, maybe texts, artifacts, or something that could rewrite our understanding of early civilization. Ubar was lost once, and even after finding it, we're still not sure why. In the remote Siberian wilderness, there's a gaping scar in the earth that locals call the door to the underworld. It's the Batagaika crater, a massive growing pit in the permafrost that's swallowing the forest around it. And it's getting bigger every year. What caused it? Climate shifts initially, but something deeper too. The area was cleared decades ago, and with no trees to insulate the ground, the frozen soil beneath began to melt. The result was a collapse, and that collapse hasn't stopped. Today, the crater is over 3,000 feet long and 300 feet deep. But this isn't just a sinkhole. As the ancient layers of Earth are exposed, they're revealing more than just dirt. Perfectly preserved animals have been pulled from its edges, woolly mammoths, cave lion cubs, even unknown species. But it's the deeper layers that raise the most questions. Scientists say Batagaika could be unlocking a snapshot of Earth's past from hundreds of thousands of years ago. Layers of plant life, pollen, spores all intact. Some researchers believe we might find microbial life frozen in time, untouched since before modern humans existed. But there are stranger claims too. Locals report odd sounds coming from the crater, mechanical hums, echoes like metal grinding. Some even say they've seen lights. It's probably geological activity. Probably. The most unsettling part? The crater is expanding. Every year it devours more of the land around it. If it keeps going, it could expose things humanity hasn't seen since before recorded history, or things we were never supposed to find. Most people think of Easter Island's moai as giant stone heads, staring silently across the island. But that's only half the truth. When archaeologists began digging around the statues, they made a surprising discovery: the moai have full bodies. Some stretch over 30 feet tall with arms, torsos, and even carved symbols on their backs. For centuries, shifting soil and volcanic ash had buried the lower parts of the statues. Locals always knew they were complete, but outsiders didn't believe it until the digs proved them right. What's stranger is what was carved into the stone bodies: ancient petroglyphs, unknown symbols, and spiral patterns that no one has fully decoded. Some researchers believe they could be linked to lost Polynesian navigation systems. Others think they represent something spiritual, something meant to be hidden. And still today, no one knows exactly how the islanders moved these multi-ton statues across miles of rocky terrain. The quarry is far from where most of the moai now stand. Easter Island keeps many of its secrets, but the fact that these heads were never just heads makes you wonder what else might still be buried under the surface. It began with the water pulling back quietly, steadily, until the cracked lake bed started to whisper stories no one had heard in generations. In central Texas, the ghost town of Old Bluffton had been lost beneath the waters of Lake Buchanan for nearly a century. But during one of the region's worst droughts in recent years, the lake's levels dropped so low that pieces of the past started to push their way back to the surface. The town had been flooded in the 1930s when the Colorado River was dammed. Locals were forced to pack up their lives, and buildings were left behind to vanish under the rising water. Nobody thought they'd ever see it again. Yet as the lake retreated, something surreal happened. Dusty roads reappeared, stone foundations emerged, and walls still bearing soot marks from fireplaces stood like skeletons on a dry lake floor. You can now walk among the ruins, following pathways that once echoed with wagon wheels and church bells. A general store's broken tile floor lies half sunken in dirt. Near the former town center, rusted tools and glass bottles poke from the soil, their surfaces dulled by time but strangely intact. Locals say you can find furniture handles still attached to collapsed doors, and parts of old stoves lodged in the mud. It's like time pressed pause and then waited. People who lived nearby, some descended from families who once called Bluffton home, began visiting. Some came for nostalgia, others for curiosity. But the mood on site feels different, quiet, heavy, as if the earth itself remembers what happened here. And it's not just about ruins. There's something unsettling about the way it all sits. Buildings tilted slightly as if trying to rise again. Wooden beams that never rotted, bone-dry and sun-bleached, lie scattered where homes used to stand. A few spots even smell of charred earth when the wind shifts, likely from debris that caught fire when the lake first dried. Beneath the cracked mud of a drying riverbed in Texas, something incredible came to light: footprints from a world that existed long before humans. In the heart of Dinosaur Valley State Park, near Glen Rose, the drought pulled back the waters of the Biloxi River just far enough to reveal something prehistoric: giant three-toed impressions etched into stone, stretching out for dozens of feet. These weren't vague marks, or maybe this is a track kind of shapes. They were sharp, unmistakable, and ancient. The tracks belong to Acrocanthosaurus, a massive predator that once stalked this area over 100 million years ago. Think of it like a smaller Texas-built cousin of the T-Rex. Nearby, another set of smaller prints was revealed, likely from Sauroposeidon, a long-necked herbivore the size of a 5-story building. The scene felt almost like a prehistoric traffic jam frozen in time. What's eerie is how clearly you can follow the steps one after another, like the dinosaur had just walked through wet earth moments ago. You can even see where the claws dug in or slid slightly. Experts say it's one of the best preserved fossil trackways in the world, and it only shows up during extreme drought. Nature holds on to these secrets until it's forced to give them up. Walking through that dried-out riverbed feels less like visiting a park, and more like stepping into a forgotten chapter of Earth's timeline. One where nothing human existed yet, and something enormous was just passing through. It's a reminder of what came long before us and what still waits quietly beneath our feet. In the hills of Catalonia, Spain, a haunting silhouette has become a recurring omen, a stone bell tower rising from a near-empty reservoir. That tower is all that remains of the village of Sant Roma de Sau, a town deliberately flooded in the 1960s to make way for a dam. Most of the year the church lies hidden beneath the waters of the Sau reservoir, but when the drought hits, the entire structure rises like a cathedral of ghosts. Its walls are still intact, weathered, cracked, and moss-covered, yes, but unmistakably standing. The cross atop its steeple reflects sunlight like a mirror. Inside, you can see the old altar stones, the crumbled remnants of pews, and the rusted iron gates meant to keep out wild animals, now guarding only shadows. The surrounding lake bed reveals even more the outlines of streets, stone fences, and collapsed homes. Entire foundations resurface, their geometry still perfect despite decades underwater. Locals say that when the bell tower appears, it brings an eerie stillness to the valley. Birds go quiet, the air feels heavier. Once, the church bells rang out over a lively town. Now, when the water falls low enough to expose the tower, it feels like the building is ringing out a silent warning that not everything washed away with the flood. Visitors come to see it, but few stay long, as if something is watching. It's not every day you witness a ghost village rising from below. And unlike a movie set, this one doesn't feel staged. It feels like something sacred and strange is waking up. Something that was never meant to be seen again. As the Danube River withered under one of the worst droughts in recent memory, a forgotten graveyard of war emerged. Near the Serbian town of Prahovo, dozens of Nazi German warships rose from the depths, twisted metal hulls, shattered decks, and rusted turrets now visible above the waterline. These weren't ordinary boats. They were part of the Nazi Black Sea Fleet, deliberately sunk by retreating forces in 1944 to block Soviet access. For decades, they lay buried in silt and shadow. Then the river fell and the bones of that forgotten fleet surfaced. Some vessels still had ammunition on board. Explosives that hadn't seen daylight in 80 years sat in open air, corroded and unstable. Local authorities had to quickly cordon off the area. Divers said the interior of one ship still had bunk frames and storage lockers, untouched since the war. Nature had sealed them off. The drought reopened them. The sight was surreal. Ships that once symbolized power and violence now looked like rusted coffins, their metal guts split open and filled with river mud. The way they leaned against each other, half submerged, half exposed, felt like a battlefield caught in freeze frame. A moment from the past dragged unwillingly into the present. It's not a museum display, it's real and it's decaying fast. Some locals believe the ships should stay where they are, as a warning. Others just want the river to rise again and cover what never should have returned. In northwestern Spain, near the Portuguese border, lies a ghost story made of stone. The village of Aceredo was drowned in 1992 to make way for the Lindoso Reservoir. Entire homes, roads, and shops vanished under the rising waters. But when an extreme drought hit the region, the lake retreated, and Aceredo returned. What makes this village so unnerving is how intact everything still is. You don't just see ruins, you see life, paused. Brick homes stand with window frames still in place. Cracked tile floors stretch out into open rooms. A rusted old car sits half buried in silt near a waterlogged sign reading, "Welcome to Aceredo." Some doorways still swing open. Plastic bottles, tools, and even shoes lay exactly where they were left more than 30 years ago. Walking through the muddy streets feels like trespassing in a world caught between timelines. Trees, long dead, stand like pale skeletons. The silence is thick, broken only by the squelch of footsteps and the occasional bird overhead. It's like time just stopped. Locals who once lived here have come back, some for the first time in decades. They've pointed out their old bedrooms, stores where they bought bread, fountains they drank from. It's emotional, sure, but it's also deeply unsettling. There's no color, no movement, no sound beyond nature trying to reclaim what once belonged to humans. Aceredo isn't a ruin. It's a memory that became physical again, walking out of the water like it never wanted to be forgotten. Lake Mead has always had an air of mystery, but lately, it's been giving up secrets that were never meant to be seen. As the reservoir's water levels plunged to historic lows, something chilling began to surface barrels. Not just any barrels, sealed, corroded, and heavy. When opened, the first one revealed a skeleton, still wearing 1970s-style clothing. Soon, more remains were found, bones scattered along the shrinking shoreline, even inside old boats stuck in the muck. Officials didn't name names, but local crime historians were quick to point fingers. This was classic organized crime territory in the Vegas era of fast money, flashing lights, and shady deals. And back then, Lake Mead was a convenient place to make problems disappear. But now, the lake has receded more than 150 feet. What was once 100 feet underwater is suddenly bone-dry beach. Hikers are stumbling onto sun-bleached shoes, rusted-out safes, and even an old handgun wrapped in plastic. All from decades ago, sealed away by rising water, and now laid bare by drought. One thing's certain, those barrels weren't meant to float back up. It's the kind of reveal that feels like something out of a Scorsese film. The setting sun over the cracked lakebed only adds to the feeling the past is back, and it's not quiet about it. When rivers shrink in the UK, history doesn't just reveal itself. It creeps out in the strangest ways. In several parts of England, especially in the Thames and Severn rivers, extreme drought exposed more than coins or clay pots. What emerged were witch bottles, bone charms, and ritual tools straight from folk traditions no one likes to talk about. These bottles weren't for drinking. They were filled with items like nails, teeth, hair, and pins, sealed and buried centuries ago to trap curses or ward off evil. Some were found under what used to be bridges or doorsteps, others lodged deep in mud. Nearby, investigators uncovered animal bones arranged in patterns, small iron figures, and even carvings shaped like faces. Historians link these to anti-witchcraft rituals from the 1600s to 1800s, a time when fear ran deep and superstition ruled over logic. The bottles were meant to protect homes, often buried secretly and forgotten, but now the rivers have retreated, and they're reappearing, broken, exposed, and strangely intact. Local museums took in some of the items, but not all. Some collectors pocketed pieces only to later report nightmares and bizarre misfortunes. True or not, it's easy to understand how unsettling these finds are. They're not just artifacts, they're messages. Protective spells made by frightened hands, hidden for centuries, only to be dug up when the land goes thirsty. One archaeologist said it best, "The river is returning what people wanted to keep hidden, and it's doing it on its own schedule." Lake Poyang, often called China's Vanishing Lake, is known for its dramatic seasonal shifts. But during one of its most severe droughts, what emerged from its shrinking shoreline wasn't just exposed mudflats, it was human remains. Scattered bones began appearing near former village sites, buried for decades under silt and water. Many believe they belonged to people who were lost during past floods or evacuations in the 1950s and 60s, when massive infrastructure projects displaced thousands. Some communities were relocated almost overnight. In the rush, not all graves were moved. Others may have been victims of local skirmishes or historical conflicts hidden by time. When water dropped to record lows, partially collapsed grave markers surfaced. Pieces of cloth, faded wood fragments from coffins, and entire skulls were recovered in remote corners of the dried lake. Villagers nearby were stunned. Some said their grandparents had warned of entire cemeteries left behind when the water came in. Now the lake was giving them back. Officials worked quickly to identify and rebury what they could. But the scene with half-buried rib bones catching sunlight on a cracked lakebed stuck in people's minds. It wasn't just eerie, it felt personal, like the land was remembering those who had been forgotten. It was just another hot, dry day in Oklahoma when authorities made a discovery that would rewrite two missing persons cases from the 1970s. As water levels dropped at Lake Foss, a faint outline in the mud began to show. A car, half-buried and rust-covered, visible for the first time in decades. It was a Chevrolet Camaro, its body corroded but largely intact. When investigators approached and opened it, they found something chilling skeletal remains. Not one, but multiple sets of bones inside. Nearby, another car was discovered, an older Chevrolet also containing human remains. Forensic teams later identified the victims as two different groups of people who vanished over 40 years ago. Both cars had likely gone off the same road that now leads into the reservoir. Back then, there were no guardrails, and the edge of the water was deeper, darker, and more remote than it is today. The find sparked renewed interest in several other cold cases in the region. Locals began coming forward with old stories, strange disappearances, and theories that had floated around for years but never been proven. What once looked like unsolvable mysteries suddenly had answers, hidden just beneath the lake's surface all this time. The cars have since been removed, but even now when the lake runs low, people can't help but glance at the shoreline and wonder, what else might still be down there? It had been missing for decades, forgotten beneath the surface of one of California's largest reservoirs. But, when Lake Shasta dried up during one of its worst droughts, something really unexpected began to emerge, a long, rusted hull jutting out from the cracked shoreline. At first, locals thought it was just debris, but as more of it became visible, it was clear. This was no ordinary wreck. It was a World War II landing craft, completely intact and abandoned in the middle of a man-made lake. The craft, believed to be an LCM, landing craft mechanized, was probably used during training exercises or post-war transport before being left behind and swallowed by rising water. For 70 years, it remained hidden, sealed beneath the surface. That is, until the lake dropped to historic lows, exposing the boat like a war relic exhumed from the earth. Its steel frame was rusted but still recognizable, its flat-bottomed design made for storming beaches during amphibious assaults. The ramp at the front, where tanks or troops would have rolled out, hung partially open like a silent scream. A few markings were still visible, worn but legible, ghost letters from another era. Even the rivets and bolts looked ready to be unscrewed by time itself. Visitors who came across the craft were stunned. Some had lived nearby for decades and had no idea such a thing was even in the water. I mean, it's not every day you find a military artifact casually rising from a lake like something from a lost battlefield. What makes it even creepier is that it wasn't logged or documented anywhere official. No public records placed that boat at Lake Shasta. It had simply been left behind, just waiting to be noticed. The site is strangely peaceful now, but it lingers in your thoughts. A boat built for war, long out of place, quietly surfaced by nature's hand. Not a monument, not a museum piece, just a forgotten machine from a very different time, returned by the drought like a memory that refused to stay buried. In the heart of China's Yangtze River, a sacred secret rested beneath the water for centuries, until the river began to vanish. As drought gripped the region, water levels dropped to their lowest in decades. That's when stone figures started to appear on a rocky island reef near Chongqing. Carved into the cliff face, worn by water, but honestly, still remarkably detailed, were ancient Buddhist statues that hadn't been fully visible in living memory. The statues, believed to date back to the Ming and Qing dynasties, stood calm and serene even as the cracked riverbed revealed the scars of the dried-up waterway around them. The most striking was a seated figure resting on a lotus pedestal flanked by smaller carvings, faded but still distinct. Scholars estimate they could be over 600 years old, created during a time when villagers carved their beliefs directly into the land. These statues were part of what locals call the Foyang Reef. Most of the year they're underwater, only peeking through the current during the lowest tides. But now, with the drought pulling the Yangtze back further than anyone expected, the full site has emerged, revealing not just figures but inscriptions and patterns carved into the stone. Locals visit the site to offer incense, prayers, or simply stare. The atmosphere is oddly quiet, almost reverent. There's no formal temple here, no visitor center, just ancient faces staring into a dried river like they've been waiting for someone to notice. What makes this moment feel surreal is that these statues weren't discovered by digging or demolition. They were simply waiting below the surface, silent for centuries, until nature stepped back and let them be seen again. Some believe it's a sign, others see it as history reminding us it's still here. Either way, the river's retreat has revealed something sacred and hauntingly beautiful. In southern Mexico, where the Grijalva River feeds the Nezahualcoyotl Reservoir, something ancient occasionally stirs beneath the surface. Locals call it the Temple of Santiago, but honestly, most only know it from rumors or old family stories. Built by Dominican friars in the mid-1600s, this colonial church once served a thriving village. Then the water came. In the 1960s, the area was flooded for a hydroelectric dam, swallowing the church, its walls, and the entire surrounding settlement. For decades, the temple rested underwater. Most years, you'd barely see the top of the structure, but when drought hit hard, the river's level fell so low that the entire church emerged, standing like a sun-bleached skeleton in the middle of the reservoir. The building is massive, over 150 feet long, with soaring stone arches and a bell tower that still stands defiantly. The roof is long gone, but the bones of the church are intact. You can see where the altar used to be, where the pews would have lined up, and where echoes of voices once bounced off cold stone. What's eerie is how well it's preserved. The dry, still air around the ruins carries a strange weight. Fish bones crunch underfoot. Vines twist through empty windows. There's no roof, but somehow the energy of the place still feels enclosed, almost trapped in time. When the waters get especially low, boats can't reach the structure anymore. People walk out to it across dried lake bed, snapping photos next to crumbling walls. It looks like a film set from a forgotten post-apocalyptic story, except it's real, and it's been sleeping beneath the waves for over 50 years. Locals say the church comes back only when the river is truly in distress, and every time it does, it draws crowds. Not just for its architecture, but because of the unshakable feeling that something sacred was taken by the water, and every now and then refuses to stay down. Across rivers in Central Europe, as water levels drop, something disturbing begins to appear. Stones, old and weathered, carved with grim messages. These are the hunger stones, markers chiseled centuries ago into riverbeds during times of extreme drought. And when they become visible again, it's rarely a good sign. One of the most famous stones sits along the Elbe River in the Czech Republic. It reads, "If you see me, weep." That inscription dates back to the 1600s, when famine and crop failure swept through the region after a brutal drought. Other stones bear years etched into their sides: 1417, 1616, 1893. Everyone linked to disaster. The stones weren't just warnings, they were records. Families who suffered during these lean years left behind inscriptions as a message for the future if the river drops this low again. Trouble is coming. Some stones are engraved with symbols of hardship: crosses, skulls, and cracked bowls, each one a haunting reminder of what low water once meant. Now, in recent years, as rivers like the Elbe and Rhine face record-breaking droughts, the hunger stones have reappeared. People photograph them, post them online, and speculate. But for those who know the history, their reappearance isn't just curious, it's unsettling. These stones weren't placed for art or culture. They were carved by desperate hands, during times when water disappeared and hunger took its place. The past is speaking again, and this time it's louder than ever. High in Italy's South Tyrol region, surrounded by snowy peaks and green slopes, lies a lake with a secret 14th century bell tower rising straight out of the water. It's all that remains of Curon, a village deliberately flooded in 1950 to create a reservoir. The rest of the town lies deep beneath Lake Resia, hidden from view, except when the water falls. During severe droughts, the church tower becomes more than just a strange landmark. The entire base of the structure is exposed. Stone pathways leading to submerged ruins become visible. Locals say when the water is low, the church seems to stand taller, like it's pushing its way back into the world. Even in normal seasons, the tower is surreal. It sticks out of the still blue surface like a monument from a dream. But when the drought tightens its grip, the atmosphere around it shifts. You can walk right up to it, run your fingers along the moss-covered stone, and hear the stories whispered by wind that weaves through the arches. Many visitors think it's just a quirky photo stop, but to residents, the tower is a reminder of a village that was sacrificed. Families were displaced, houses demolished, fields drowned. The town was real, and the tower is the last piece that refuses to sink. People claim to hear bells ringing from beneath the water, even though the actual bell was removed long ago. Whether it's a trick of the wind or something stranger, the effect is the same. You leave with goosebumps. Because Curon didn't vanish, it's still there, just beneath the surface, watching. From the outside, the Oppidum looks like a peaceful country estate tucked into the hills of the Czech Republic. But below the surface lies the most expensive private bunker on the planet, an underground fortress designed to protect and pamper the world's wealthiest individuals in absolute luxury. Estimated to cost over $100 million, the Oppidum isn't just a shelter. It's a palace carved into bedrock. Covering more than 77,000 square feet, it's built to survive a nuclear event, biological threat, or complete societal collapse, all while offering the feel of a five-star hotel. It's the definition of high-end survival. Security comes first with blast-proof concrete walls, multiple armored gates, biometric access points, and an independent air filtration system that can block out radiation and chemical agents. But what makes the Oppidum so unique isn't just how safe it is, it's how beautiful and comfortable it feels inside. Owners can customize their living quarters with marble floors, leather furniture, LED simulated skylights, and personal vaults. Some versions of the design include private spas, art galleries, pools, and even climate-controlled wine cellars. There's space for underground gardens, surgical rooms, and command centers that can run for months without any outside contact. Everything is designed to be fully self-sufficient. The Oppidum has its own underground water reservoir, backup power generators, and long-term food storage facilities. It even includes luxury add-ons like a cinema room and bulletproof garages for rare cars or armored vehicles. What sets the Oppidum apart is the combination of security and elegance. While most bunkers feel cold and industrial, this one feels like a hidden mansion. It's meant to make people forget they're underground at all. One of the architects even referred to it as a private castle below the surface. And that's exactly what it is. Discreetly located, heavily fortified, and loaded with ultra-modern tech, the Oppidum is the ultimate backup plan for those who can afford it. If money were no object and you had to disappear underground tomorrow, this is where you'd want to be. Safe, silent, and completely sealed off from the chaos above, without ever giving up luxury. Hidden beneath the lush green hills of central Germany is a structure that feels more like the set of a futuristic sci-fi film than a real place. But it exists. It's called Vivos Europa One, a private underground complex so secure and extravagant, it's often compared to a modern-day Noah's Ark for the ultra-wealthy. This isn't just a shelter, it's a subterranean kingdom. Built inside a former Cold War military fortress, Europa One spans hundreds of thousands of square feet. The original structure was carved into solid bedrock, which means it's nearly impenetrable. Now repurposed by the Vivos group, the space has been transformed into one of the world's most advanced survival resorts. This is where luxury meets lockdown, and it's completely self-sufficient for years. Private apartments in Europa One are custom-built to the buyer's taste. Think golden chandeliers, marble flooring, home theaters, wine cellars, and even private gyms. One suite design included a waterfall wall and panoramic video walls that display fake windows, offering views of beaches, forests, or cities that no longer exist above. The idea is to make you forget you're 400 feet underground. Security and engineering match military specs. Blast-proof doors, air filtration systems that can filter out radiation or biological threats, backup generators, underground water reservoirs, and even genetic storage facilities. Yes, you can store your DNA here for future cloning or medical use. Some apartments have built-in panic rooms inside the bunker, just in case. Communal spaces include a medical center, a chapel, a school zone, a restaurant, and even a secure zoo to preserve animal species. It's not just about surviving, it's about restarting civilization if the surface becomes uninhabitable. Entry is by invitation only, and only the wealthiest individuals can afford it. The project is often described as a backup plan for the elites, but it's more than that. It's an underground sanctuary built to feel like home. And if you think it's all a bit too futuristic, consider this. Many of its features have already been completed, and the project is active and expanding. In the event of a global catastrophe, there are people out there who won't be fighting over supplies or scrambling for safety. They'll be riding it out in marble bathtubs, sipping vintage wine, and checking security feeds from rooms that look like they belong in a 5-star hotel. Europa One proves one thing. The future of survival isn't about bunkering down, it's about leveling up. When it comes to big ideas and secret projects, Elon Musk is always in the conversation. Rockets, electric cars, brain chips, nothing is off limits. But lately, whispers from deep in Texas suggest something even more intriguing. That Musk might be building a private underground survival facility near the Tesla Gigafactory and SpaceX's Starbase. There's no official blueprint confirming it, of course, but satellite imagery, local permits, and insider chatter have all pointed to strange construction zones on Musk-linked land. Some sites show concrete reinforced entrances, massive excavation activity, and ventilation shafts that look suspiciously like bunker systems. And when it comes to Elon, plausible deniability only fuels the fire. Some believe it's a high-tech survival shelter equipped with Tesla power systems, Starlink satellite internet, and maybe even experimental AI integration. Think of it as a survival command center, where the apocalypse is monitored through ultra-clear monitors, solar panels run life support, and robots handle the grunt work. Others suggest it's a prototype. Proof of concept for a future Mars colony module tested right here on Earth under Texas soil. The layout reportedly mirrors the idea of a closed-loop habitat. Hydroponics, battery power, water recycling, and pressurized compartments. In other words, exactly what would be needed both for doomsday here and long-term survival on another planet. The theory fits Musk's bigger vision. He's repeatedly said that humans need to become a multi-planetary species. But if things go bad on Earth before we get to Mars, he might already have a launch pad bunker ready to protect his closest team and family. Some have even called it the real Iron Man cave, equal parts tech lab and survival pod. Whether it's real or just an internet-fueled myth, one thing is certain. If anyone has the resources, the tech, and the motivation to build the ultimate high-tech survival bunker, it's Elon Musk. And in typical Musk fashion, if it exists, it's probably smarter, more automated, and cooler than anyone realizes. Some say it's just about safety, others say it's about control, but maybe, just maybe, it's about being ready for a future no one else is prepared for. In the heart of Kansas, a Cold War relic has been transformed into something out of a sci-fi thriller. Larry Hall's survival condo started as an Atlas missile silo designed to launch nuclear warheads. Today, it's a vertical fortress for millionaires, and it's sold out. The silo is 15 stories deep and fortified with concrete walls up to 9 feet thick. That's enough to withstand a direct nuclear strike. Inside, it feels more like a high-end resort than a bunker. There's a swimming pool, a gym, a rock climbing wall, a theater, and even a dog park, all underground. Owners can ride out anything from civil unrest to global disasters without losing access to comfort or luxury. Each private condo comes fully furnished and includes high-speed internet, biometric locks, and full-spectrum lighting that mimics daylight. A standard unit here started at around $1.5 million. Penthouse units sold for over $4.5 million, and all of them are built to sustain residents for 5 years off-grid, with food storage, water filtration, and backup power systems. Hall didn't stop at just one silo. A second location, Survival Condo 2, is already underway, adding even more features and space. His buyers, tech executives, doctors, former military officers, people with money, yes, but also people who believe the future might not be as stable as it seems. And it's not just about hiding out, it's about continuing life as normally as possible, even if the world above goes dark. There's a classroom, a library, a command center with satellite feeds. Some owners even customize their units with escape tunnels and armored safes. What makes the survival condo so popular isn't just its protection, it's the lifestyle. You don't feel like you're in a shelter, you feel like you're in a high-end apartment building with the best security in the world. If you've ever wanted to live in a luxury tower flipped upside down and buried in the earth, this is it. Cheyenne Mountain has long been one of the most secure places in the United States. Home to NORAD's command center, it's a military fortress carved straight into the Rockies. But what most people don't know is that a growing number of ultra-wealthy individuals are building their own private versions, not far from the original. These modern bunkers are modeled on Cheyenne's legendary resilience. They're built deep inside remote mountain areas in Colorado and Montana, using similar reinforced concrete shells and blast doors. The twist? Instead of war rooms and radar stations, these bunkers come with heated wine cellars, private spas, recording studios, and underground lounges that wouldn't look out of place in a luxury resort. One of the better-known examples is a site near Telluride, where a private investor spent over $20 million converting an old mine shaft into a multi-level survival palace. Others have reportedly purchased decommissioned military facilities and outfitted them with Tesla Powerwalls, biometric security, and underground garages for exotic car collections. Because these locations are private and often unregistered, details are scarce. But real estate developers in the area confirm there's demand, and the price per square foot for underground space in some parts of the Rockies is now higher than luxury penthouses in Manhattan. In short, these bunkers are not just shelters, they're investments. And why the Rockies? High elevation, low population, and natural shielding from blast waves and radiation. That makes it a dream location for anyone wanting a strategic edge during a large-scale event. It's the same logic the military uses, and now the billionaires are following suit. With some of these facilities offering runway access for private jets and helicopter pads hidden under retractable roofs, it's no exaggeration to call them the civilian version of Cheyenne Mountain. Just swap out the missile tracking software for smart TVs and Scandinavian furniture. One of the most mind-blowing transformations in the world of doomsday prepping sits quietly in the middle of upstate New York. From above, it looks like a grassy hill, maybe an old farmhouse. Underneath, a Cold War missile silo turned multi-million-dollar luxury home. This former Atlas F missile base now houses a custom-built, 2-level underground mansion. The owner, an engineer and entrepreneur, spent years and more than $4 million turning the hardened silo into a fully livable residence. The result? A safe house that feels more like an underground mansion than a military bunker. The entrance is hidden beneath a nondescript garage. Once inside, you descend into a high-end living space with granite countertops, ambient lighting, a modern kitchen, entertainment system, and even a simulated sky ceiling to mimic the look of daylight. Below that, another level includes bedrooms, a library, and a workshop. The missile bay, once home to a 100-ton intercontinental ballistic missile, has been converted into a giant rec room with a climbing wall and open concept design. The original blast doors are still there and they still work. In fact, the entire structure is sealed tight with the same specs used by the military during the peak of nuclear tensions. Power comes from a hybrid system of generators and solar panels. Water is pumped from a well 100 feet deep. The house could operate off-grid for months without issue. And if needed, the owner has backup fuel, food stores, and medical supplies to outlast almost anything. What's truly striking is how personal and cozy it feels. Unlike larger community shelters, this is a one-family setup. And that makes it feel like a secret lair, part superhero hideout, part luxury lodge. If you've ever wanted to ride out the end of the world in comfort and quiet, Silo Home makes that dream very real. Tucked away in the rolling hills of South Dakota is one of the largest private bunker communities in the world, Vivos X Point. Once a military base storing weapons and ammunition, the site has been repurposed into a post-apocalyptic neighborhood with over 575 hardened bunkers, each one available for private purchase and upgrade. It's like a gated community, but underground, and with blast doors instead of white fences. Every bunker is built with reinforced concrete and a curved, earth-covered structure that blends right into the landscape. From the outside, they look like grassy mounds with steel doors. On the inside, though, things get a lot more interesting. Owners have transformed their units into personal retreats, complete with living rooms, kitchens, solar systems, and even home theaters. Some have gone for a rustic cabin feel. Others built sleek, modern interiors worthy of a high-end downtown condo. Buying a bunker here starts at $35,000, but that's just the beginning. Most people invest upwards of $100,000 to $200,000 to customize it. You can install wood floors, granite countertops, LED lighting, soundproof walls, and whatever makes your apocalypse stay more enjoyable. The site has enough storage for years' worth of food and supplies, and the air filtration systems are designed to handle chemical, biological, and radiological threats. What sets X Point apart is its community approach. There are plans for a central marketplace, medical center, chapel, and even a bar. It's designed for long-term living, not just waiting out a storm. People bring pets, kids, even hobbies. You're not hiding out in isolation. You're building a new kind of society beneath the grasslands. And the location isn't random. South Dakota offers low population density, stable geology, and is far from coastal threat zones. It's the kind of place that makes sense if you're thinking long-term survival with a side of privacy. For those who want to be prepared but still feel like part of a community, Vivos X Point turns the idea of bunkering down into something a lot more human and a lot more livable. Silicon Valley is known for tech giants, innovation, and luxury living, but hidden beneath some of those multi-million-dollar homes is a secret most neighbors would never guess. More and more high-net-worth homeowners are installing high-end underground bunkers right in their backyards. We're not talking about steel boxes or panic rooms. These are full-scale shelters designed to be both safe and stunning. Some of these subterranean builds come with lounge areas, stocked wine cellars, encrypted communication rooms, and personal gyms. Architects have developed retractable driveways, elevator shafts, and disguised access points that blend seamlessly into landscaped gardens. You could walk across a yard with no idea there's a 2-level survival zone beneath your feet. The bunkers are equipped with self-sustaining water systems, EMP protection, radiation shielding, and even entertainment hubs with surround sound and 4K projectors. One venture capitalist reportedly installed a flight simulator in his bunker, not just for fun, but to practice piloting in case of emergency relocation. These bunkers aren't just for end-of-the-world scenarios. Some owners use them as ultra-secure vaults for crypto hardware, private server racks, or digital archives. Others use them as office spaces, completely offline and immune to surveillance or intrusion. And the reason Silicon Valley leads this trend? It's not just wealth, it's mindset. Many of these individuals are forward-thinking, data-driven, and constantly preparing for risk. Climate change, civil unrest, cyber threats, these aren't abstract concerns. They're coded into contingency plans. When your day job is predicting the future, planning for its darker sides comes naturally. It's the new luxury status symbol. Not just a smart home, but a safe one. Underneath it all. In the towering Swiss Alps, where mountain peaks cut into the clouds, there's more beneath the surface than just snow and stone. During the Cold War, Switzerland invested heavily in military bunkers, hundreds of them, some big enough to hold entire communities. Today, many of those concrete beasts have been decommissioned, and a handful have quietly been converted into private sanctuaries for those who want to wait out disaster surrounded by the quiet of the Alps. These aren't just empty cold rooms anymore. Wealthy buyers have turned these military leftovers into modern marvels. Imagine heated floors, mood lighting, plush lounges, and mountain views through periscope lenses or digital window panels. One former artillery base was transformed into a 12-bedroom residence complete with a spa, wine cellar, and drone surveillance system. Unlike bunkers in flatter regions, these structures are often carved directly into the rock, offering natural protection against blasts, earthquakes, and even electromagnetic pulses. Switzerland's strict privacy laws also make it easier for owners to develop these properties without much public exposure. Many of these private bunkers aren't even listed on regular maps. A few have been purchased by discreet foundations or foreign investors looking for a stable European fallback point in uncertain times. The appeal isn't just the safety, it's the scenery. When you step out of one of these bunkers, you're not looking at a wasteland, you're standing in the middle of postcard-perfect alpine beauty. Some owners have even added cable cars or ski lifts to make their retreat even more self-contained. From military secrets to private luxury, the Swiss Alps now offer one of the most beautiful and secure ways to disappear, without leaving behind the finer things in life. It was supposed to be the most luxurious doomsday community ever built in the United States. Trident Lakes, a 700-acre fortress of calm in Ector, Texas, promised an underground paradise for the elite, complete with private bunkers, man-made lakes, equestrian trails, a spa village, and even a DNA vault. But what happened instead was stranger than fiction. The plan was massive. Developers unveiled renderings of a gated compound with over 600 condominiums, 90% of them underground, priced between $500,000 and $2 million. The site would include a golf course, polo fields, a massive fountain system shaped like a trident, and deep shelters beneath every home. The goal? Offer a 5-star lifestyle before, during, and after any potential disaster. Initial construction began with a grand entrance, columns, guards, palm trees. Promos ran with the tagline, "Prepare for the future without sacrificing the present." Investors signed on, some even put down deposits. Media coverage blew up. But then, silence. As quickly as it appeared, Trident Lakes stalled. Construction halted. The fountain dried up. Reports emerged that federal investigators were looking into possible fraud and mismanagement. One of the men behind the project was later linked to criminal activity unrelated to the site itself, and from that point, it spiraled into abandonment. Today, the land still exists. The gates remain. But the vision, the utopian resort for survival, is gone. What's left is a half-built complex that serves as a haunting reminder that not all prepper dreams come true, even with a big budget and a flashy launch. Yet Trident Lakes still lingers in conversation because of what it could have been. It was one of the first projects to market survival not as fear but as lifestyle. It told the world you didn't have to sacrifice beauty for security. And though it vanished, it inspired other, more discreet projects to rise from its ashes, quietly, carefully, and far more privately. Sometimes the most luxurious bunkers are the ones you'll never hear about again. When the idea of hiding underground feels too restrictive, there's another solution gaining serious attention among the ultra-wealthy: survival at sea. Floating bunkers and luxury yachts are quickly becoming the preferred escape option for billionaires who want freedom, flexibility, and full mobility in uncertain times. Forget concrete walls. These high-tech vessels offer security, independence, and pure luxury, all while cruising international waters. Unlike traditional bunkers, survival yachts don't rely on staying put. They can move away from danger, avoid crowded zones, and anchor in remote areas where few can follow. This mobility gives them a major advantage, especially during global instability or environmental crises. And with today's advanced technology, many of these vessels are capable of staying off-grid for weeks or even months at a time. Most high-end survival yachts are custom-built or heavily modified to include things like EMP shielding, satellite communications, secure storage, desalination systems, and solar-powered backup energy. Some owners go even further, adding drone launch bays, underwater escape pods, and panic rooms. There are also designs focused on stealth. No flashy paint, no open positioning systems, and no press. Just smooth lines and total privacy. Inside, these vessels are often indistinguishable from five-star hotels. You'll find private cinemas, spa rooms, gyms, gourmet kitchens, and multiple guest suites. Some are even equipped with hydroponic grow systems and medical treatment rooms. Whether used as a permanent retreat or a floating backup plan, they are made to support long-term living with comfort and style. Floating bunkers aren't just about survival, they represent a shift in how the elite prepare. Land can be overrun, cities can collapse, borders can close. But the ocean? It remains wide open. That's why the rich aren't just building bunkers, they're setting sail. That's about it. In which of these bunkers would you wait out the apocalypse? Write in the comments. And don't forget to check out our other videos.